lost everything from March, April, May, June now. We're trying to see what we could do to, adapt to that. It's really hard.
It's been a very, very difficult situation. Obviously, it's a historical situation that we're living through that hopefully as a group within, humanity, as Americans, we can all come together and say, okay, look, these are things that we can do better as we go forward from here.
Too many times as entrepreneurs, ignore what's happening in the political world because we don't want to get dragged down into the mess. But more today than ever before, we need to have a voice. Otherwise, we're going to be left behind. I started Learn exactly for this reason. So starting today with Freedom Friday, let me be your voice. What's up, you crazy fighting entrepreneurs? Welcome back to another episode of Freedom Friday. Yes, that's right. We have a really awesome episode. I'm excited. As a matter of fact, before we started, my two guests today started talking and I was like, nah, stop. We've got to get this on camera because this is the exact conversation I want to have. Here's my thought of the day or my monologue. I haven't really named this thing yet. And that is the following. I hate the media. I do not care what the media says. I don't trust what they say. I don't listen to it because it's all drama filled. Now, I'm not saying they're liars and I'm not saying that everything they say is a lie. I just prefer to go straight to the source. So as you know, on Freedom Fridays, we've been kind of dipping into the actual people that are being impacted by what's happening with this pandemic, with this craziness, with just this lockdown. I'm ready to get out of it and done with it. But, there are people being impacted. Of course they are. We talked to a truck driver. What better person to talk to about the supply chain than someone who drives in it every day? Then we just recently talked to a stock trader, someone who's been a hedge fund manager and been trading in the economy, in bad economies, good economies for like 24, 25 years. And he revealed some great insights to why the stock market looks like what it looks like. And today we're going to talk to real live restaurant owners and general managers who are in the business, have been in the business for decades, are living it right now. And they're going to have different perspectives for us to tell us what's happening. And this will help us as a community understand how we can better support them, right? So I'm really excited because I want to get straight to the source and I want to be able to understand what's going on, the good, the bad, the ugly. We're going to talk about the government. We're going to talk about whether they're getting support, and we're going to talk about what they feel. I'm watching TV and they're telling me how I should support local restaurants. Why don't I just ask the local restaurants how I can support them? Let them tell me what we can do. So I really want to appreciate, and I want you guys to all help me introduce and help me welcome our first guest. His name is Ted Hughes. He's the actual restaurant owner of Lahinch Tavern and Grill. He's been in the restaurant business for 37 years. All right, he's been a chef. So we had to be really nice to him because he makes good food. So and he's been a part owner of this particular business for 4 years, and he's facing a very different set of challenges than our next guest, who's also here today with us. That's right. Very rare do we have two guests at one time. And his name is Chris. I'm going to mess up his last name. Chris, do you want to just say your last name for me, man? I'm not good at Italian names. Fargiano. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, Chris Fargiano.
All right, I got it. So Chris and I recently met because he catered food to our WebinarCon event, and it was epic. And so he runs a restaurant called Gregorio's Trattoria. I can't say this name. Gregorio's. I'm just going to keep it Gregorio's. All right. Amazing Italian restaurant. So if you live in the Maryland area, you got to get to both of these restaurants. All right. And he's been in this industry for 22 years, general manager of that restaurant. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here with us today. I really appreciate it. I want to dive right in. And so first of all, and I'll start with you, Chris, has this pandemic, has it impacted the restaurant industry? I mean, from what you're seeing, is it hurting?
A lot of people are hurting from this. Absolutely. I feel like the ones that had an established takeout business, that was a good chunk of their cash flow. They're the ones that were able to survive and adapt to this new environment that we're in. The other restaurants that, the 300 seat, places with the, expensive steaks and the places that never did takeout, they're the ones that are scrambling right now and having a really hard time, trying to retain their staff and keep them employed. It's really a tough situation for many people, for myself and, for the restaurant that I'm at. We're we're doing better than ever. You know, we're very blessed to you know, have the curbside and the takeout business and the delivery business that we're doing. The community has rallied around us, and you know, we're very fortunate, you know, compared to many others.
So Chris, that is amazing. And I'll come back to you because I want to talk to you about Gregorio's business model and as a restaurant, why you guys are thriving. But then right before we started, Ted, you gave a completely different picture of what's happening in your restaurant. And just so everyone knows, your restaurants are right next to each other. Chris and Ted's restaurants are literally right next to one another. So what an interesting dichotomy we get to see. So Ted, please, what's going on in your business?
So, you know, we're a tavern and grill. We do live music 4 nights a week. We are a social environment. You know, the biggest portion of our business is about social interaction. And, you know, if you look at the entire mantra of restaurants over the past 10 to 15 years, it's all, you know, social dining, community tables, eating together, sharing, you know, shared plates, small plates, lots of, you know, it's a community activity. So here we are in the middle of this pandemic where we're banned from, you know, seeing anybody. And, you know, we're basically shuttered, which most restaurants and bars are. Previous to, you know, COVID, you know, 98% of our business was in-house. We did a very little carry out. Our food is not geared as much toward carry out. You know, pizza, pasta, like next door at Gregorio's, you know, that's a huge carry out. You know, Domino's, Papa John's, you know, pizza's always been a huge, you know, big deliverable type of item. You know, we're doing oysters on the half shell, steaks off the grill, burgers, fish dishes. You know, a lot of this stuff doesn't translate well into a plastic box. But that's never been the direction that we ever wanted to go in. You know, we are a social environment. We're about, you know, inclusiveness and being together and sharing, you know, with people. And, you know, that's
it's tough.
It's a bar with live music. So, you know, our business model is entirely different than Gregorio's next door.
So Ted, how much would you say your business has been impacted by this? Like in a percentage basis, has it been?
We're down 98%.
Wow. Okay. So I got to ask some follow-up questions to that. You're down 98%. Have you even like, have you guys?
95 to 98.
Yeah. I mean, well, let's just say 90 plus is basically, you know,
close.
Yeah. It's as bad as it's going to get. Have you tried to do some, like, are you trying to do outreach to the community to get curbside pickup? Like, is that helping? Is it picking up a little bit? What are you doing to try to help with the situation?
So we've done a lot of social media, a lot of online. I do a daily changing menu. We do Instagram blasts, Facebook blasts every day with our menu of the day. We added delivery. We added that the day this whole thing started, you know, March 18th. You know, this whole thing happened on March 16th, the day before St. Patrick's Day, which that entire weekend was our biggest weekend of the year. You know, we do 2.5 weeks worth of business in 4 days on that weekend. Wow. We lost all of it. So, you know, we stepped into this pile of mess, you know, quite completely. But anyway, so, you know, as far as the marketing of it, we've gone, you know, getting the store reporter, some of the local rags, you know, a lot of word of the mouth, a lot of, you know, but social media has been the big one. You know, right now, social media is the big outlet for everybody. Phones and social media, reaching out, because again, you can't talk to anybody. You're not supposed to, you know, congregate socially. So that's been our biggest outlet for that. But, you know, we were never set up for that kind of thing. And our food doesn't, you know, while, you know, it delivers and some things deliver better than others. It was never a big portion of our business model.
Got it. And I want to come back to you, Ted, because I want to talk about how this has impacted employees and, you know, future outlook. But before we do that, Chris, I guess there's a different scenario on your side. How much would you say this has impacted your business from a percentage basis?
Honestly, we're probably even to, you know, a couple percentage points higher than we were when we had a full dining room. Like I said, we've had curbside that has run about a quarter mile in length, where we've had to have cops a couple times have to, move people around with their vehicles.
Huh.
So,
That's so crazy.
we're in a different position. A lot of my staff that, we're in the inside part of the business, we've converted them into different positions now, whether it be a delivery driver or, counter or, curbside management, whatever it might be. We've tried to, keep everybody employed.
That's amazing. So first of all, congratulations. That is amazing to hear. I'm having a hard time digesting, gentlemen, that the idea of right next to each other, one says business went up, one says 90% down. This is something people don't hear, right? And I feel like that alone to express that to the market, like right next to each other, complete different scenario. One's having to call the cops because there's too many people outside. So Ted, I don't even, my heart really goes out. Like I'm actually being a business owner. I can only imagine, how this feels. So what's happening right now as far as financially with have you had to let go of your team? What's been going on in that area?
So, initially, we pretty much had to let everybody go. I kept on, the bare minimum of people to run, the kitchen. We converted, conversion of employment. We made a bartender a delivery driver. We had a couple people, that have elderly parents at home. So once the lockdown came, they didn't want to leave the house for fear of infecting their, one guy's grandfather, for example. So those people kind of took care of themselves. We've been fortunate enough. We did receive a PPP loan, which we can talk about later because it's basically a Band-Aid. It isn't going to help the future of the restaurant business. It'll certainly help us, and we're extremely grateful for that. But again, now I have to bring back my staff. But we're at a point now where if we don't get open, that money's going to run out real fast. There's a lot of strings attached to PPP loan. And if you don't use it properly, then you have to pay it back.
Yeah.
Which is fine. We're prepared to do that, obviously. But, if we don't get open soon, the money runs out and then we're right back to square one. We're broke.
So Ted,
we're not making any money.
Yeah. So when you say soon, how soon? Well, right now it is the day we're filming. This is May 4th. We're filming on May 4th. What's that?
How about last week?
Last week. But I mean, seriously, we're in Maryland. Governor Hogan hasn't said anything about opening back up. I haven't heard anything. So what is it? Are you a month away from this becoming like level 10 nuke red? Is it 2 months, 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's probably 2 months.
2 months. So in 2 months, you don't just need to open, you need to be back to the kind of business you were doing before this whole thing started.
But that's not going to happen.
No, it's not.
Looking at so many different scenarios. I mean, you talk about the media and I'm in the same boat as you. I don't even watch the news anymore because it's depressing. And then there isn't any new news. It's the same baloney regurgitated in different forms on every single channel. So there really isn't anything positive to watch. Obviously I keep track of updates and things that concern the restaurant, and I read voraciously, anything that I can get my hands on to help. But what's going to happen when everything reopens and we're given some of these ridiculous restrictions that we're hearing about? I've heard so many different things that they're not even worth going into as a list, but we need to get back to business and need to get back to living.
Yeah.
And being human beings, and humans are not meant to be in seclusion. We're social animals pretty much. So, we really need to get back and get going very, soon. The entire country does, not just us, because it's not going to. There's a huge effect that I'm hoping people are starting, are looking at in the long term, that this is going to be could be potentially a huge disaster for a lot of people. And I'm always the optimist. I'm always a very upbeat type person. I don't like to be negative. But, I also have to be realistic, and, I have 30 employees to take care of, and that, rely on their income from our establishment. And those people are very important to me. And it's tough.
Yeah. So Ted, when this happened, you said you had to let go of everybody, but then did you bring them back on when the PPP came out?
Yes. So now we've got almost everybody back on. I still have the couple individuals that, have the elderly at home. But we've pretty much brought everybody that we can bring back to work. Some of the part-time people, we have had group meetings with, we have some staff members, part-time people who have full-time jobs that are still working. So we've collectively agreed that, those people will not come back until we're back open full time, to allow for people that don't have other jobs. We have a lot of immigrants. We have a lot of other people that their sole income is this restaurant. So those people, we're putting on back to work first, because they don't have an income. So if they were on unemployment, they're off unemployment, they're back to work, they're working. And then as we begin to reopen and begin the reopening process, we'll start bringing the other people who work full-time already back to work.
So you hear all this in the media, right? Where people are saying, all the employees are going on unemployment. They're making more money with unemployment. They're not going to come back to work. They don't want to work. Looks like you didn't have that issue at all, huh? Everyone came right back.
Oh, they didn't. I had a couple who didn't want to come back.
Okay, you did.
But the provisions under the PPP are very clear. Either you come back to work or you lose your job. And there are plenty of people out there that want to work now. So that was a very short conversation.
So as far as like talent or skill or people, when you do come back, that's not the biggest worry. I mean, right now the biggest worry is financially surviving this entire thing and getting to the other side.
Yeah, the skill issue, that's a totally different conversation that, we can have.
Sure.
The skill level is not the greatest out there right now in our industry, in the culinary market. It's very tough to find good, qualified people, knowledgeable people. That's an entirely different conversation.
So Chris, let me ask you then. I guess in your case, your restaurant's not laid off anybody or gotten rid of anybody. I'm assuming you guys have kept all your team.
Well, with the exception of a couple, that was by choice, on their end. We've been able to convert, everybody. I've given them opportunities to make money, whether it be a delivery driver, curbside, maintaining the outside and acknowledging customers as they pull up, because, one of the challenges is you don't have enough phone lines. It's, when people pull up on the curb, now they're having to call in and say that they're here. So I've had to, I've had to adapt to that and, just make different roles for people. For the most part, everybody's, been flexible and they're all able to work and make a living for them and their families.
Yeah, it's so interesting just to kind of continue thinking about the difference, the kind of restaurant, I guess, the kind of food. It made such a massive impact on that. So what are you hearing? Like Ted, I'll come back to you from the restaurant owner space. I watch news. We hear something like 70% of businesses or 70% of restaurants are going to fail. Like they're not going to survive this. What are you guys saying amongst each other? Do you think it's going to be that dire? Do you think it's going to be better, worse? What are your thoughts?
It's a tough call on that. I think it's going to be very difficult and very challenging to survive in the next 2 years. If a business doesn't have deep enough pockets to be able to weather, the timing of this whole thing, especially specifically for us being an Irish pub, St. Patty's was a huge financial disaster. I've got a restaurant completely full of food. On St. Patrick's Day, we do anywhere from 1,000 to 1,300 meals on that particular day, and we close the day before. So if you can imagine the amount of food, beer, alcohol that we had on hand. Anyway, I think the future is not going to be that great. I mean, I'm trying to be positive and trying to think of different ways to repurpose the restaurant, repurpose the food, different methods of packaging, different products. There's a lot of different ways to go, but the money only goes so far, and you've got to take care of so many different aspects of things. And I think it's going to be real tough. And a lot of it, again, going back to the media, who knows what to believe until we can get a definitive answer on, okay, this is what it's going to be. This is what's going to be allowed or not allowed. You're 6 feet apart. 6 feet is a long ways. And I don't think people realize, I made a stick at work, and we had a joke about, we're measuring out spaces on the bar, and, okay, we're all going to need a loudspeaker to talk to each other because we're so far apart.
I want to ask a question here. How many can your restaurant seat in a good day, not this pandemic day, like on a regular day?
On a regular day with our outdoor seating, we can seat 180 people.
Okay. Now, let's say you have to come in under these new guidelines. How many could you seat?
So I've heard anywhere from 30 to 50%.
Wow.
To start. Okay. I've also heard the restaurants will only be allowed to have 10 people at a time in the restaurant, including your staff, which means
so like two customers?
No, zero customers. Okay. So, these are the kinds of things the media spews out that, I mean, really, 10 people, including my staff? What are you, joking? I mean, how am I, the ratios don't work. The numbers don't work.
So, Ted, even if, let's forget those numbers. Let's say you're allowed to run your restaurant 30% capacity. You know what? Forget it. 50%. We'll give 50%. You can have 50% of the people in the room. Do you survive this? Does your restaurant actually financially survive to the end of the year at 50%?
We might make it to the end of the year.
Okay.
But the long-term
no
of that is no. The long-term answer is definitely not. I mean, the margins are way too thin in restaurants. Everybody thinks, restaurants make so much money. You see all, and again, going back to the media, all these, chef TV shows and all these chefs and all blah, blah, blah. And I've been a chef my whole life, and I'm all about it. And I'm very happy for what media has done for chefs in one regard, but in the other regard, it's not been good for our business. Yeah. So again, another conversation, but
another day.
The financial model doesn't work. The numbers are the margins are way too thin.
No, I hear you. So Chris, I'll come back to you. You guys are in a different scenario, of course, financially, and so you have a little bit more buffer and time to survive this. But sure. you also took. What about you? Catering is a big part of your business, right? I mean, that's how we met, was through you catering for one of our events.
Well, yeah, exactly. So even today, I just lost 2 more weddings. So that's probably where I got hit the hardest. Who knows when it'll come back, but like what Ted was saying with the social distancing, practices, people aren't going to be able to schedule, guests with 50 people. So yeah, my catering took a huge hit from right after we had our event at your location. I basically lost everything from March, April, May, June now. So we're trying to see what we could do to, adapt to that. It's really hard.
Chris, there was like 3 other events. I was excited. I had my ideas of exactly what food I was going to demand from you that we were planning, that and they've been canceled since. So it sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. we run an event
Go ahead.
space, right? And to be honest, I don't want to deal with the risk. I don't think there will be another event at our venue for the rest of the year, which is a huge loss for us too, because I built this beautiful 26,000 square foot space, and now I'm not going to use it because especially until I feel like I'm indemnified from any of the lawsuits, I'm not going to let people in. I just don't want to deal with it. That's another big fight happening right now. So, gentlemen, what do you think about that? Like, Ted, what are your thoughts on that? Someone comes into your restaurant, gets coronavirus, and sues you. This is a very likely possibility at the current time, and there seems to be a big fight about it in Congress, which is crazy to me. But what are your thoughts on that?
Quite honestly, I haven't even really thought about it because we haven't had people in. No. Restaurant, obviously, and since this whole thing started, we have a very strict sanitizing protocol that we deal with daily right now. Obviously, once we are able to reopen, I think what's going to happen. My belief on that, whether I'm right or wrong, doesn't really matter. There's an indemnification in the bottom of every menu that says, your risk of foodborne illness is increased by eating raw eggs, shellfish, blah, blah, blah. And it's going to have to now include COVID. That, you choose to come to a social environment. If you get COVID by coming here, it's not my fault. Yeah. How am I to blame because you got sick? If I go, next door to Gregorio's and catch the flu from the guy sitting next to me, do I sue Greg because I got the flu over there? That's crazy. I mean, that's
yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. Guys, it's hard to even really figure what to ask, right? Because it's just so crazy out there right now. And so, Chris, do you think the government is doing enough? I mean, the PPP program I've heard is irrelevant for restaurants in so many ways. That it didn't help the restaurants as much as it should have. Is there another program? Do you know of anything coming down the pipeline? Is the government going to do something else to help restaurants?
I mean, there's talks about a lot of different things. Whether they deliver on it, that's another story. What I've seen was, a lot of these programs that they, implement, the funds get dried up so quickly because everybody's in need of it. Yeah. So I think the replenishment factor is a real big challenge. And some of the larger corporations that, either they return the funds, or not, everybody has a different impact. Yeah. And, the challenge, I think, of those funds to the right parts of the business.
Yeah. Ted, what do you, I guess, what would you want, right? Ted, if right now the government could do something to help you, what's going to help restaurant owners? What can they really do?
Open the doors.
Open the doors. Yeah.
You can only give away so much free money. Mm-hmm. Okay. The only people paying for this $2.2 trillion is John Q. Public, the taxpayer. Mm. Okay. We're the ones footing the bill for this whole thing, all of us collectively. So, you don't want to sound callous or cruel or crude, but, somebody said to me today, I'd rather die living than live dying. Mm. When do we draw the line and say, okay, look, we're just going to have to suck it up and take our chances here. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answers to that, but the PPP loans have, for us, it's a Band-Aid. It helps. Yes, I agree 100%. I'd really like to know who's overseeing where all this money went, how it's getting spent. Yeah. I mean, I have huge issues with some of this, where some of this money went and why did it ever go to some of these people in the first place? Mm. Even the ones who returned it. Why did they apply for it in the first place? Mm. Yeah. Okay. So, and I think there's a lot of great things out there. I just actually 5 minutes before I tuned in with you, I got an email from Maryland that I am going to be receiving one of the COVID relief grants.
Oh, wow.
That I applied for on the first day. It's $10,000 grant from the state of Maryland. Great. I'm excited. That's fantastic. So little things like this, they help. They're great. But we're not a socialist country. We never will be, hopefully. We cannot just stand here with our hands out and go, okay, well, I'm going to sink or swim. And in this, here we've had this huge influx of cash to people, via unemployment, via, everybody got a check. I'm not really thrilled about that piece of, why did we give everybody a check?
Yeah.
Well, not everybody's out of work.
Yep.
Yes, there are millions of people out of work. Yes, we are maybe on the brink of a depression. I don't know. I'm not an economist. However, why, before we pulled the trigger on 2.2 trillion, didn't we ratchet back and say, hey, let's wait a little minute and see, does everybody need a $1,200 check? Well, no, they don't. Is everybody that doesn't need it going to return their $1,200 check? No, they're not. I mean,
yeah.
So, I think it's been a very, very difficult situation. Obviously, it's a historical situation that we're living through that hopefully as a, as a group, as a group within, humanity, as Americans, we can all come together and say, okay, look, these are things that we can do better as we go forward from here.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Chris, what's your take on this? There's such a big political dilemma on this about open up or don't. There's people saying, listen, open it up and take our chances. We got to live our lives. If, we'll figure out a way to live it. And the take on that, which is interesting, is, hey, listen, if you're scared and if you are worried, then stay inside. That's your right. You don't have to come out. Like for me, I'm immunocompromised. I get it. I'm a high risk patient. And I'm fine staying inside. I don't want everyone else to have to suffer for me. But I don't know, Chris, what's your take on this? You think they should really start loosening this noose up and opening things?
I share a lot of Ted's views, with opening up the country. I don't think that we should be shut down longer than, people in the media, sort of, create headlines of fear. And I don't want, I think that there's a lot of misinformation out there. Yes, it's a dangerous virus for the more vulnerable, high-risk patients. But in general, the younger, population, it comes and then it goes, or they're asymptomatic. I think that there's a lot more damage that could happen if we keep our country closed the way we have. Opening it up, I think we could do it in a smart manner, whether it be, practicing social distancing, in the restaurant business. I think it's hard to have waiters coming up to you with masks and gloves. I think, people want that personal touch, and, I don't know how that'll go. We're all, in this for the first time together. So, once we open up, I'm not a big fan of that 25% capacity, that number that's been thrown around. I really think that we should either open or, just stay shut. There's really no in between. If we open, we have ways of, trying to, practice social distancing and, and finding ways to protect each other.
Yeah, and as Ted and I were speaking before, I mean, even at 50% capacity, what's you're going to bleed. Basically, it's going to be.
Well, you got to look at these. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so
you got to look at these places that have 300 seats, and to have that little capacity and no takeout anyway. It's just, I think it's not a good thing.
Yeah. What about your expenses, rent? And all of that, is that still, you got to pay that on time? They're still coming and collecting. Ted's laughing. So Ted,
the bills keep coming.
Bills come and paid. There's no, has your landlord or anyone offered any deferment or any help of any sort?
Nope.
That's great. Way to be Americans there, landlords. Mine wasn't much of a help either, so I feel your pain there. Because there was a lot of talk about that. There was a lot of talk about, oh, there's going to be all these pushbacks, and the Fannie Mae's and all these are going to help give credit to the landlords, and landlords will pass that on to the tenants. And I haven't heard a single lick about that, although this would be a great time to have that. Ted, have you spoken to your have customers called you? Have customers spoken to you? Like, will they come back? Are people saying, gosh, we missed the live music, we want to be back, we don't care about this stupid coronavirus?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we've had we're not doing no business. I mean, we are doing business. We're open 6 days a week, doing carry out and delivery. And all of our regular customers have been in. We talk with them, some of them on a daily basis. We have some people that come by every single day and order something to eat, or get a drink to go. Maryland's been great in opening up the liquor laws a bit and relaxing things. We're able to do beer, wine, and mixed drinks to go, which is huge. I mean, it's I've got one couple that comes by every day. They get a glass of Guinness and a gin and tonic and dinner every single day. And there's a whole bunch of people like that are, local people. They live in the neighborhood. They love the place. They love us. They eat next door also at Greg's. Greg and I share a lot of customers. It's just the dynamic of the food and what we do is different. Yeah. So, I mean, I've bands calling me constantly, hey, when we know you can't answer this, but we're clamoring, we're ready to get back on. When can we come and perform? And, we've thought about doing, live video, and, we've talked to a bunch of different bands about doing, Zoom style stuff. And, there's been a little, a couple of them, there's been some pushback with some of that stuff, but, everybody's clamoring to get out. People are starting to reach the end of their patience with. You
can tell because people are starting to just leave. Actually, the beaches and everything. People are just saying, "Yeah, I'm good. But what about Chris? Have these apps like Uber Eats and I don't know. I only use Uber Eats, but there's a couple other ones out there. They were positioned a few weeks ago as like the heroes. They would save the restaurant world. Have you guys plugged into these apps at all? Have they helped?
Well, we're always big on GrubHub as a third party vendor, but we still use our own drivers. We don't use their drivers at all. Okay. DoorDash, Postmates, they've basically infiltrated all the restaurants without even permission. So I don't turn them away because their drivers will come in and pick up the food. I'm not a really big fan of it because it's a depending on who the driver is, we don't know who they are. It's a reflection on your business regardless.
Has it brought a lot of business though? Have those apps brought a lot of business?
Not so much.
No.
GrubHub has increased.
Okay.
But with that being said, they also take a large commission.
Yep.
Whether you use our drivers or not. So it does take a lot of money out of our pockets. So we try to convert those customers into, calling us directly or going through our website to place the order instead of going through them.
Yeah.
It's more of a convenience factor.
Yeah, got it. Ted, you were shaking your head, so it doesn't seem like those apps.
So I dropped GrubHub during this, mainly because when this whole thing first came out, GrubHub went through this huge. They came out with this big thing telling everybody they were going to waive all the fees, blah blah blah. It was help out, trying to sound like they were doing the right thing, and so what they ended up doing was waiving the fees for the customer, and then on the back end, waiving the fee to me, the business owner, which is the percentage that we pay for the advertising through their website. However, we had to pay it all back after 3 months and sign a 1-year contract to stay with them. So I kind of had a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth about that and decided that I would just cancel them and use my own drivers.
All right. Well, that doesn't help much. Man, this is why I love talking to the inside, because the outside you hear, oh, this is amazing. They're doing amazing things. And then behind the scenes, they're just jabbing you over there on the side. How far do your drivers go, Ted? Did you expand their distance at all?
they'll go up, 5-6 miles away.
Right.
Predominantly most of the stuff we do through delivery is very close. It's a couple miles.
Because I live in the Rio area, so I'm wondering if I can get some food brought out this way.
We'll bring it up to you.
All right, awesome.
We'll get it up there to you.
All right, I think I'm gonna put my order in with Ted. Chris, you don't need any more money. You're doing all right over there.
There you go.
I'm gonna give my business to Ted. Gentlemen, it has been.
It's all good. We got to share the wealth.
Chris, I'm still gonna end up ordering that meatloaf. Don't worry, it's gonna happen one way or the other. Meatloaf, or the roasted
Sounds
chicken
good.
and the tiramisu.
You got my direct number.
Yeah. Gentlemen, it has been such such an honor. Thank you for giving us this time. I'm Ted, praying for you. Thank you for sharing, and you're still smiling and you're still laughing, and so that means the world to me to see that. I will pray that this thing bounces back. It bounces back fast, and you guys are just bustling of business. And Chris, man, so happy to hear that you guys are doing good and great, actually, and that you need to call the cops to maintain your customers. That's a whole nother thing I would have never thought. Two total extremes of examples I would have never thought about. To everyone who's listening, listen, don't support your local restaurants through these apps. Call them directly. Let them deliver the food to you directly. Show up, get some drinks. Drinks have good margins. Buy some alcohol from them. And really support these businesses. We've been trying our best here locally. But love it. Thank you very much, gentlemen. All the best to you. Stay safe. Hope you open up soon. I'm with you on the whole opening up aspect of things, although I know that sentence right there is going to create a massive whirlwind in the comments below this video, and that's okay. I said it. Look, stay inside if you don't want to go out. No one's putting a gun to your head to go out, but you can't put a gun on the rest of our heads to stay in. It's not fair.
Yep.
It's not how we work. We're not China. It's not going to work here. And pretty soon people are going to start showing up outside with their guns because that's what we are. We're Americans. Let's not go there. But anyways, gentlemen, thank you very much. All the best to you, and all of you listening. Leave a comment, click subscribe.
You for having me.
Yes, of course. And if you're in the local area, you got to get to their restaurants. All right, we're going to put all the links and everything in the comments or in the descriptions below. And as I always say, everyone, when life pushes you, stand straight, smile, and push it the heck back. This is Anik Singal here on another Freedom Friday. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Chris. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Fighting Entrepreneur with your host, Anik Singal.